Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. And in studio with me this evening is a phenomenal woman that I had the opportunity to recently connect with. I actually had her daughter on our show in recent meeting this particular season of ours, and she introduced me to her mom, who also has a phenomenal story, and we're super excited to hear about that. Again, she's a mom, she's an author, she is a true survivor, a true fighter in dealing with the adversities of life. But most importantly, she's a woman of God, and she's taken out time out of her very busy schedule to hang out with us this evening to share a little bit of her journey with the hopes of inspiring and encouraging and uplifting others. So it is my privilege and honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you our special guest this evening, Miss Nezzie Shabazz. Nezzie, thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Nezzie, before we get into our segments for this evening, I do want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Kind of give us a glimpse of who is Nezzie Shabazz.
Well, growing up, I was the only child, and my mother and both my parents, they were very active in church, and my mother was an Eastern Star, so there was a lot of activity there. And both my father and my stepfather were Prince Hall Masons, and so I was lucky to have two dads, and they both loved me and took care of me, and life was beautiful. I was a very shy person, but I learned to enjoy my life. I loved pets. I've had pets. I mean, I had one cat, no, one dog. I had one baby alligator. I had one water moccasin that caught myself. I had many cats, rabbits, chickens, geese, turtles, all kind of stuff, and I just enjoyed my animals. And that's the type of life I had. My mother was a seamstress, and I used to watch her sew all the time. And so she would make me beautiful dresses and matching dolls dresses. And so I wanted to try my hand at it. And I did. But I got a whipping the first dress that I made. I was probably 8 years old. I went in the closet and I see her take things, take a sleeve from this and the bottom from that and add embellishment and create a whole new outfit. So I wanted to try it. One day when I was by myself and they were going to the grocery store, I went to my mother's closet, grabbed a dress, grabbed my stepfather's white dress shirt, and I cut out a big cat and I cut the bottom of the dress off and just created something really cute. I thought it was cute. I went downstairs and I cut my mother's new broom because the silhouette on the dress that was made from my stepfather's white dress shirt was the silhouette of a cat, and it had to have whiskers. So I used the broom, some buttons for the eyes, and a little triangle for the nose, and Rick Rat for the mouth. But they came home too quick, and they just saw their broom cut up in the floor because I didn't pick it up, and so they were upset, and I got a whipping for it. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, those were the exciting days. But my mother calmed me down, and then she told me, "Well, I am the sixth generation of seamstress, and I do have a picture of my ancestors up there somewhere. Yeah, I'm fortunate to still have that picture. So that was my childhood. Very active, very playful, love to travel. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. I love to hear that. And again, I appreciate you sharing that. And it's just always really interesting to find out a little bit about one's background. And I know you kind of delved into kind of what it was like growing up, because that's one of the things that I like to spend time in. Because as I tell all my guests, when we talk about our journeys, when we talk about our stories, I really believe that the things that happen in the beginning, those earlier days, as far back as childhood, even though we don't necessarily recognize the significance of them at that time, the people that we meet, the encounters that we have, those things are not by accident. These are things that are kind of I'd look at it as sort of the foundational points in you ultimately, as you go through our years of life, you ultimately get to that point where, you know what, I had to go through that. I had to encounter who I encountered for what God was purposing me for later in life. And so some of those things that you just mentioned in these first few moments, I'm immediately kind of processing that, knowing a little bit about your story in terms of some of the stuff that you do now. And I'm thinking, see, at that time, this is why, when it's just like you shared, you getting in trouble, knitting, making stuff, you're just being a child, just doing what you thought was, natural to you and fun to do. But, works that you're doing today, you're taking that same skill set that you were just, tinkering with as a child, you're doing that now to be a blessing to people,
Yes.
to bring joy, to bring happiness in other people's lives. And I think that that's so really important, how we can, again, when we're not thinking, not cognizant of it, we can just kind of dismiss things like that. But again, nothing that occurs in our lives are by accident, and it's all by divine design. And it's evident just even in these first few moments from what you're sharing, that that would be the case as it's leading you into doing what you're doing today. So again, I appreciate you sharing that. I did want to dig a little bit more into your childhood. I know you talked about yourself. Did you have, I don't know if you have siblings? Did you have what, where, what kind of area, what was the area of town that you lived in growing up? Kind of what was that like? Kind of expound on
I
that a little
lived
bit
in
more for us.
Columbus, Ohio. I'm an only child, no siblings.
Okay.
That's probably why I got so close to my pets. And as far as being around someone that was creative all the time, so was my stepfather. He would always be putting up wallpaper, building tables, and this, that, and the other. And I believe that led me into interior decorating and home furnishings and stuff like that, because they were always hammering, knocking, and banging, and painting, and just making the home really beautiful. And so that was my inspiration back then.
Right, right. That's awesome. Again, that's it's cool to be around that kind of activity around you, and just really tapping into your creative side, allowing you to not only observe it, but then, like you said, you just kind of naturally, from being in the atmosphere of it all, you grew a liking for it, and it was something that kind of became a passion for you moving forward. So that's really good to hear. That's really interesting, and I love that. And again, to my listeners, understand, you might be thinking right now, oh, we're just talking about some decorating and some interior design and all that kind of stuff. It's bigger than what might ultimately be one's career path or anything like that. You just have to pay attention to the cues and be able to connect the dots. And it does take time. It takes life experiences, some good, some not so good, to really ultimately embrace the fact that, you know what, this all had a purpose all along. I'm just catching up to it, and but that's God's way of sort of setting the table for us, so that we can, if we're connected with him, if we're paying attention to his cues, and hearing his voice, we will know what steps to take and what directions to go in order to get us to that point of walking in our purpose. So again, I appreciate you sharing that. So, so Nezzy, as obviously you've lived a full life. You're thriving, you're doing your thing. But as you know, we get older, we get into our adult years, and with those experiences, there are going to come some very joyful, memorable, wonderful, awesome times that come to mind. But then, as we all say, you live long enough, and there's going to be those instances where you have a situation, in which challenges come your way, things happen that will cause you to sometimes face some challenges, some uphill battles that you just don't know how you're going to get through. We're going to pause momentarily. Looks like we lost our video with Nezzy. He's coming back in real quick. Nezzy, you're there? Again, this is the Blessings in the Streets podcast with our special guest, Nezzie Shabazz. We're just having a brief moment of technical difficulty. She's tapping back in so we can continue our conversation.
Um, Trying to get it to where you could see each other.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem, no problem.
Sorry about that.
That's not a problem at all. Sometimes these things happen, but it's okay.
Okay.
We will patiently wait for you to get yourself back online. And again, this is Blessings in the Streets podcast for our listeners, and with our special guest Nezzie Shabazz. So we're just having a momentary pause with our technical difficulties that we're working through, so we can get her back on camera and finish this exciting story that she has to share for us. So again, while they're working on that, again, to my listeners, just I'm glad that you're tuned in, and we have the fortune on this platform to be graced by people from all walks of life, all types of backgrounds. So this never gets old in any way. So it's just such a pleasure to have people like Nezzy and others that we've had on the show sharing their stories as they do, and imparting in us some, really exciting testimonies that allow us the opportunity to truly, understand what it means to go through adversity, but at the same time, not allow those adverse moments to get the best of us. So again, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is what we're about. So We're just having a momentary pause here while we get our technical issues in order. We'll get our special guest back on board. We should be there momentarily. So just hang in with us while we work through that. And again, thank you so much for tuning in and being patient with us while we get it all figured out here. All right.
Maybe get closer.
And
Hmm. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We can hear you. Just
Well, how
we
about
can
we start talking?
we'll continue our conversation while you work through your video. That's not a problem. So
Okay.
um, I don't know where at what point you got cut off before you couldn't hear me anymore,
Okay.
but
You asked me
um,
about what if let's see
well, I'll repeat it for you. I'll repeat it for you. We're good. We're
the
good.
second one.
Yes. So what I was sharing with the audience, and just in case anybody missed it, Nezzy, what I wanted to know, what, let me first start off by saying, as you know, when we get older, when we get our life experiences, begin to pile up, there are going to come moments in time where things happen in our lives that are great, that are awesome, that are phenomenal, that we never forget for good reasons. But then, if the reality is that if you live long enough, there's going to be a moment in time when you find yourself facing challenges that feel a little bit more heavy, a little bit more burdensome than the normal day to day stuff, to the point that you might find yourself in a situation where you're thinking, how am I going to get out of this? This is not something that I can pivot away from. This is not something I can throw money at to make go away. This is not something I can call in a favor on. So with that said, Nezzy, tell us about a time that that's exactly how you perhaps felt helpless, felt stuck in this situation, not seeing a way out, feeling like this may be the end of it all for you, whatever that means to you. If you would kind of walk us through what that experience was like for you and what was ultimately the turning point when you began to see some light at the end of the tunnel and coming out of that.
Yes, actually, I had an issue with my husband with domestic violence, and I was going to leave. And so I went to the townhouse that I was getting ready to rent and move in the next day just to get a few things taken care of. And so on my way in, it was like 8 o'clock in the evening, and I'll never forget the date, December the 18th, I think 79, 1979. Or anyway, I walked in, but I had the hiccups, so I walked into my apartment to head straight to the kitchen in order to get some water. But on my way to the kitchen, I had to circle a stairway. And all of a sudden, it felt like the ceiling fell on my head. But that's the
Mm,
first thought that I had. But actually, I realized quickly that there was a tall man standing over me with a large hammer, and he was bludgeoning me with the hammer. And I panicked. But the first thing that came to my mind is no sense screaming. That's wasted too much energy. So I don't know why I did this. I don't know why I said that, but I looked him directly eyeball to eyeball and I said, "You cannot kill me. You cannot take my life." You know, and it frightened him because I had blood all over me. Anytime you're hit in the head, you bleed tremendously. And so I was spitting blood out my mouth. I had on a white cape coat, but it was drenched in blood. And so by me looking him in the eye, not screaming and yelling and acting like most women would act. It frightened him. He didn't know what to think, and he took off out the door. I left out the back door and finally made it to a neighbor's house. And they called the ambulance. I went to the hospital. My diagnosis was I had 128 broken bones in my hands because I threw my hands over my head to keep him from busting my brains out. So I threw my hands over my head. I had 128 broken bones between my two hands, two broken wrists. My left arm was broken. I was paralyzed on the right side of my body, and I had to have brain surgery. So I remember once I went in, the doctor said, if I live, I would probably be invisible, and I told him to do everything that you were trained to do, and God Himself will do the rest. And so I told him that I'm going to come out of that through those double doors the same way I went in. And those double doors were the doors to the operating room. And I did. I'm still alive. I was 32 years old at the time, and next year I'll be 80. So I'm still here. So there's been multiple training times, and even when I went to get out the hospital, I signed myself out the hospital because it was New Year's, and I said I'm going to feel miserable laying in the hospital. I'm going to be miserable at home, so I might as well release myself. And one of my friends were giving a party, and I wanted to go, and so they helped me in. I took 2 steps up, 2 steps back, and that was it. They already had prepared for me a place on the sofa so I could lay with my medicine and stuff like that. They wanted to turn the music on down. I said, no, keep it going, you know. And then I fell asleep with my medications. I woke up to silence because everyone that was there was kneeling beside me. I was laying on the sofa and praying and thanking God for bringing me through another year. So that was beauty in itself. But also, I went to live with my mother because I couldn't live on my own with my 2 children. And I didn't want to think about what has happened because I do realize that it's up to us it's up to us to think about what we want to think about. I called it at that time the orange effect. In my mind, I would picture a orange, a bright orange, and I would focus on it so much that I could see the texture of the orange, the navel of the orange, and I would visually split in half and watch it fall from side to side. But I realized as I was doing that, I wasn't thinking about what happened to me. I was focused on the orange. So it's like the Bible verse: whatever's good, whatever's pure, whatever's holy, think about those things. And so when you switch your mind to what had happened to what could happen or what you want to happen, you're not thinking about the bad stuff. You're thinking about the good stuff. It is putting you in a good mood. And so that's how I got through that situation. But I've been in multiple situations. Like when my mother passed away, it was hard for me. At that time, I was a decorator. I was making money decorating homes, and she called, and not she called, the hospital called and told me she had passed away. And so I said, okay, I'll just withdraw some money from the bank, on the airplane and go. And all my money was gone because my husband had took it. So it took me 10 days to get to my mother. And when I did, sure, I went through the normal processes and things like that. But the funeral home buried the wrong Inez in my mother's grave. I was angry
Mm.
because they cremated the wrong woman and put somebody else in my mother's grave, and it's been paid for years. And so I was very angry. But then I thought, what stopped me from really blowing up and getting been out of shape and probably in jail was I thought when I was a young girl, a toddler, 2 years old, my mother had to go to jail for a season, maybe no more than 6 months, a year. You know, a little kid, you really don't know what's going on. But that's because of her anger of my father actually cheating on her, and she found out where the lady lived at, and she followed him over there, lit a stick of dynamite, threw it in his car, and not only blew his car up, but a part of the house. And so she had to spend some time with it, and I had to go in the orphanage. And so I said, I'm not going to ever do anything, um, never get that angry to where I would have to go to jail and be separated from my kids. So that stopped me from doing anything violent to them. But I got through it because I just kept reading. I know that when people die and the resurrection comes, even the sea will give dead. So my mother is living in perfect peace, and I was okay with that, after that. And then I had the experience when I was 17 years old. That's before I, my mother passed away. I was only 17. My appendix burst, poisoned my system, and I went into a coma for 10 days. Well, me, I thought it was overnight because there's no time in a coma. I know you wake up and you go to sleep if you're not dead. So I would go to sleep and everything be black. There's no dreaming, there's no thoughts, no anything. But then when you wake up, you can hear things. You can't move, you can't respond. But then remember one day, my mother being on my right side and my dad on the left. Excuse me, the doctor on the left, and I heard the doctor tell my mother to get the family together because she's not going to be here too long. And I remember thinking, hey, I don't know what's wrong. I can't respond, but I feel fine, you know. And then I did come to, and and I'm still here. But even 2025 was rough. I mean, I went to other things, but 2025 was a rough year for me, and I call it the year of the four C's because it started off. I had colon cancer surgery February the 12th. I was in MD Anderson for 8 days, but I still had to go into a nursing home because I wasn't strong enough to pull myself up out of bed. So I went to a nursing home for 16 days, and then with physical therapy, I was able to take the ride back to Keller, Texas. But yeah, that was tough. I left, had to go to a nursing home for 16 days, but I left the nursing home with COVID, of all things. So I had cancer and I had COVID. And then a few months later, in the middle of the month, I got a letter from Social Security saying that you owe us 3 months for being in the nursing home, and so we're going to have to take that from your check. And I'm like, oh,
Mm.
okay. And so then I had to move because I couldn't afford to pay rent anymore. And I had to move in with my daughter and her husband. And then I got all my documentation together, and that was in uh, June. Anyway, I got all my documentation together to take to Security. And guess what? On my way to Social Security, bam, car crash on the freeway. We were stopped, and the truck behind us kept going and slammed us into the car in front of us. And so I already had knee replacement on both knees, but that impact of being hit by a truck from the behind from behind and slammed into the car in front of it. It loosened the hardware in my knees and also jammed my foot. My foot has a plate in every, excuse me, a rod in every toe, and under my big toe there's a plate. So a bunch of trauma. And I recently had surgery. So, but with all those C's, all the cancer, the COVID, the car crash, and the cash taken out of my check, there was one huge C that brought me through everything, and that was Christ. He
Mm.
brought me through it, and I'm fine. I'm still here. The car's total, but I'm still here. And so that's something to be grateful and thankful for. You know, everybody goes through something, and I feel that, oh my goodness, when will this ever stop? But I was so glad when 2026 came by. 2026 is here. And regardless of all that, I have exciting plans laid up. Right now, it's still January. I have two homes to decorate. I'm writing a book. Matter of fact, it's a memoir, and it's called Fear Less. But I'm also writing a workbook that goes along with it, and it's a workbook for survivors who are really ready to rewrite their story with truth, power, and grace. And so it's a part of the answer to how to get through traumatic experience and come out on top God's way. And so, but the workbook also has things for people that are going through domestic violence, sex trafficking, any type of situation that you're going through. It's the mindset that you develop that helps you get through. So main thing, the big thing is Christ. Our faith is so important, and we can't just read the word. We got to live it as close as we can because it's our roadmap in life. And so the more we stick and the closer we stick to the Bible itself, the better life will be for us. And so I'm looking for a glorious ending. And even though I know I'll be 80 next year and my time is getting slow, I have so many things that I want to do. And my main purpose is to help people get over tragedies, help them through difficult times, whether it's financial wisdom or anything that I've learned in my life. That's what I want to share with everybody else. And in the future, if anybody wants to look me up, I'll give you my final address right now. It's 1000 Pearly Gates Boulevard, north of the throne room in glorious heaven.
Mm. 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 Wow. 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 Let me first start off, Nezzie, by just saying thank you so much for your transparency and what you just shared. I can't even begin to imagine what it must have been like to go through these seasons of life that you've dealt with, the domestic violence moments, the moments of, as you refer to, your four C's, the cancer, the COVID, the car crash, the cash being taken away from you that you needed. You've had a host of traumas that, while some people might be able to identify with one, perhaps two, you'd be a little bit hard pressed to find people not only who have gone through as many as you have, and but also having gone through things that, for each story that you told, from a if you look at it from the standpoint of the worldly ending as to how it's supposed to go, you were not supposed to survive any of that. So
True.
then the question becomes, what was the difference? Like, how are you still here? How are you still in your right mind? How are you still sitting upright? And I think you said it best when you said that the most important C of all is because of Christ. Because that's the only way that you can explain somebody going through what you've gone through and being able to be here today to even share your story with us. It's just unimaginable, one, being able to do that unless you understand what it means to be in relationship with Christ. And clearly you do, and clearly you've had that relationship for quite some time. Clearly, that relationship has allowed you to have the strength to be able to overcome some of the most difficult of times in your various seasons of life. And so, I'm thankful to God that He covered you the way that He did. And I'm thankful that you had the faith that even in spite of all of what was going on, when I'm sure many people, family, friends, and otherwise had written you off, it pretty much considered, it's probably over this time. There's no way she bounces back from this. There's no way she overcomes this. But yet, here you are, doing your thing and alive and kicking and being able to tell the story and being able to tell the story unapologetically, being able to tell the story without shame, without embarrassment, without any worry about judgment. That lets me know that you have ignited that healing process from it all, and not just a physical healing, but an emotional healing, a mental healing, and even a spiritual healing. Because there would have been many people, and I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking to themselves, how could you, still be in connection with Christ, with you having gone through what you've gone through? He's supposed to be this, he's supposed to be that. Why would he let you go through what he let you go through? And I want to say to our listeners, we don't always understand why we go through what we go through. We don't necessarily understand, that it has nothing to do with us having done something wrong per se or being a bad person. A lot of times when we go through the adversities and challenges that we go through, it's not even about us. It's really God has destined you. He's assigned you to go through what you go through, even as difficult as it's been, because of the platform that He's preparing you for, because of the audience that He's preparing you for, the group of people that He's divinely designed for you to be connected with at some point in life, that you're going to be able to tell the story that you're telling now and be a blessing to those individuals, to be able
Amen.
to pour into them in a way that only you can. Because this is not a story somebody can just make up. This is not a story that this is a real, true, raw instance that we have here, of going through trauma, but not allowing the trauma of the moment consume you, not allowing the trauma of the moment be your end to your story. And that's why, I don't know if you paid attention to our title. And a lot of times when I'm coming up with titles for our shows, I don't necessarily know how it's going to connect. It's just something that God connects me to call a particular show, a particular thing. But it seems like, just like clockwork, the stories that are told automatically connect. And so, the title of your show this evening is No Matter the Past. It's you, and in your testimony that you just gave is symbolic of that. Like, no matter what has happened to me in my past, no matter how grueling it may have been, no matter how hopeless it may have seemed, I just decided for myself that I was never going to accept that this was going to be the end of my story. But instead, and this is what ties into your gift that you do, instead I'm going to give you another C. I'm going to create
Mm-hmm.
a new outcome. I know what my past says, but it doesn't matter about that. No matter what the past says, when I'm in, because I'm in relationship with Christ, He gives me a pathway to create a brighter outcome. He gives me an opportunity to create a better day. And you sharing what you're sharing lets us know. It reminds us of that he is more than capable of making those things happen. And I hope our listeners are capturing this, because there might be some listeners who are tuning in who've been in that car wreck, that nearly cost them their lives, who've battled through, cancer. I've had many guests come on the show who've had their battles with cancer, but just like you, they also had that relationship with Christ, and that's what was able to help them to get through it and to realize healing from those type of things. They've been in domestic violence situations, and know what the battle is. When money is, becomes a part of that process, and you're losing out, and you're not knowing how you're going to pay basic expenses and things of that nature. So everything that you're speaking about is very, very relatable, everyday type stuff that unfortunately a lot of people have to deal with. Yours has been just to not only been at a higher level of intensity and extremeness, but what's even more powerful than all of that is the fact that, again, Christ has shown up every time, just as He always does, to save the day, to just when everybody else is ready to count you out. He says, "No, I'm the one who decides how this story ends, and I'm gonna use Nezzie to show you what that looks like. I'm gonna use Nezzie to show you what it means to create a brighter future, to create a brighter day that might have started out cloudy, that might have started out gloomy, but in the end, it's a ray of sunshine. In the end, there's an outlook, there's a future to look forward to. Here you are, you just as you profess, you're knocking on the door of 80, and you're still doing what you're doing, still
Kenya.
in your, still out here,
Hmm.
just not only just living life, but again, trying to breathe life into other people. And that's
Yes.
what makes your story so valuable, so special, and why I'm
Mhm.
so thankful to you, and so thankful to your wonderful daughter that I had the pleasure of interviewing, of even making this connection, because these are the type of stories that we need to hear. And just as a reminder as well, that you're never too old for these type of things to happen. There's no cutoff that says, "Oh, well, now I'm knocking on 80, so it's too late for me." Well, if you thought that,
I'm just
Nezzie
getting
has
started.
Nezzie has disrupted that whole myth. She's just basically twisted it up and thrown it out the window. If you thought
Mhm.
that 80 was too old for you to still be blessed, that 80 was too old for you to still enjoy life, that 80 was too old for you to have your bounce back, your comeback, your ability to still contribute in meaningful and powerful ways to other people. So again, this is just phenomenal, what you shared here, and again, I appreciate your transparency. Is there's not enough words to express how valuable that is, and I know that you're blessing me, and I know you're blessing my listeners, and thank you, listeners, for hanging in even in the midst of our little momentary technical difficulties, because even when stuff like that happens, Nezzy, one thing that I've learned, it doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, that's usually a cue to me that my guest has something very powerful to say, and the
Oh
enemy
yeah.
doesn't want it to be said. So
You
I'm
know what
glad
he
we
don't
hung
want to
in
hear?
there.
You know what he doesn't want me to say? I
Yes.
am 100% cancer free. No
Mm.
chemotherapy, no radiation. I refuse it from day one. Just a plant based diet, prolonged fasting, and you get you some sour sap and some fermented food. Done.
Mm.
And I'm on no medication. Hmm.
What a blessing! What a
Yep.
blessing! That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. So, oh my God, oh my God. So, good stuff, Nezzy. So Nezzy, obviously you shared some very traumatic moments in life, some very challenging times in life, and again, life can deal that to us, in a variety of different ways and fashions. But what I'm curious to know, while there's sometimes things can be heavy, like some of the things that you talked about, sometimes life can just be life, and it could be just the common day to day annoyances or issues, whether, somebody, got on my nerves today, and it got me unsettled, or, there was an unexpected, bill that came into play, or an unexpected expense that came, around the corner, or you just never know what happens in our day to day, because it's never a matter of if, but a matter of when. So
Hmm.
with that said, if you would, when you do find yourself facing challenging and difficult times in life, no matter what the magnitude or intensity of it is, what is it that you particularly like to do that kind of helps you process in a very calm, focused type of way? How you're able to process and dealing with whatever that challenge is for you? What works best for you? What does that look like
Well, look,
when
the
you're
first thing I
facing those
think
challenges?
is, yeah, the first thing I think, okay, that's a situation, meditation, I meditate on it, evaluation, I evaluate, I find a solution. And then if I can't find a solution, then I turn it over. I say, hey, look, I got angels capped around me. Y'all figure it out. I'm going to sleep. When I get up, then y'all let me know what's going on. But
Mm,
that's what it is. It's and then it's after that, I just do whatever needs to be done. So it's just situation, valuation, you know, I just do what needs to be done. Execution is the final thing. Whatever the situation, just execute it. And sometimes if you can't do nothing about it and you prayed and nobody has the answer, just leave it alone. Don't let it, it's an external thing. Don't let external thing get to you on the inside.
mm.
I mean, the worst thing can happen to you. Is it going to kill me? No. Well, this, that, and the other happened. Well, hey, I'm going to get through this. If I could get through, I think about getting through my being a domestic violence, which was horrible, but it's all in my book. And the different things, the small things that I let you, of the things I let you guys listen to. If I could get through this, and this, what is this? Nothing. I'm going to get through that, because I wished this was live because I'm not on stage, but things are every day something's going to come at you, and you decide what you're going to do with it. I'm not going to let anything get me down. No, I don't fear dying either. That's another thing. I don't fear dying at all because I know it's peaceful. After being, in my state, I know that death is peaceful.
Mm.
So I don't let anything bother me. I mean, what's the worst thing to happen? Somebody kill me? You can't take my soul. The
Hmm.
soul separates from the body. What you got? My remains, my space suit that I use while I'm here. I don't
Wow.
worry about it. I
I,
just
I,
smile anyway. I just smile anyway.
I love your approach because there's nothing complex about it. It's
Mhm.
pretty straightforward. But
Peace.
I think one of the key things that you pointed out is the importance of not being in fear. And I know that,
Yes.
and I know why you speak that way. It's not because you've never faced challenging things. You've clearly stated that,
Hmm.
but you just come to realize that I can only control so much.
That's it.
And I like the fact that you look at it like, what's the worst that could happen to me? No matter what this situation is that I'm facing, what is the worst that happened? Okay, I die. So let's just say that happens. And again, we're in no way wishing that on you or anybody, but
Hmm.
you've come to the realization that if that's the worst that I see happening, but even in that quote unquote worst, you still see a bright side to it because you know who you're connected with. So you
Yeah.
already know that death for the believer is not an end game. Death
No,
for the believer is not a
it's a
a
beginning
dark
game.
tragic moment to look forward to. It is exactly. It's a
Hmm.
transition. It's a beginning to a whole new experience that is phenomenally better, greater, more awesome, more wonderful than
Yes.
anything that we experience here. The
Yeah.
believer who passes here on earth and is now in heaven with God Himself,
They're good.
they are doing better than we are.
Yes.
Way better. The troubles, the worries, the
Hmm.
stresses, the pains, the hurts, the sufferings, none of that stuff
Hmm.
exists anymore.
No.
That's
Even
the
with
beauty
that.
of being a believer. Yes.
Yeah, even with
Um,
the out of body experience, you don't feel anything. You don't feel sad, happy, nothing. You go to sleep, and everything's black. No memory, no thoughts, no dreams, no nothing. Heaven, I mean, it's beautiful. So why should I feel death after experiencing an out of body experience? I don't feel fear death. I just don't.
yeah, and I think again, I want to emphasize, there's You know, God didn't build us. He didn't construct us in a way to allow fear to consume our lives. For us to walk
Mm-hmm.
around in that. That's what He's there for. When stuff gets tough, when stuff gets hard, He wants us to give that to Him. He wants us to cast our burdens onto Him. So it takes off all of that fear, that worry, that anxiety, that pressure. That He doesn't want us to carry that. He's saying, "Look, I got you. I'm strong enough. I have enough love for you. I got enough everything that you could possibly need and more. Give that to me and let me show you how awesome I am. Let me show you how much I love you. Let me show you how much I care about you. Give it to me. You don't have to carry this load by yourself." And again, for our listeners, please understand it. And it's real easy sometimes for us to fall into that trap because some of us, for a variety of different reasons, especially if you've gone through certain challenges in life or whatever, to where you've had to kind of depend on yourself. You couldn't count on other people to step up, and you feel like when you're in those situations, you kind of feel like you need to do everything, you need to fix everything. Well,
Mm-hmm.
while God equips us to have certain skill sets to be able to navigate through certain things, we all have limits. We're not we're not invincible. We're not. There's certain weights that are too heavy for us to lift. There's certain loads that are too big for us to carry. He doesn't make us a helpless people, but He does make us the dependent person, but primarily dependent upon Him.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to be okay. We got to put our prides to the side. We got to put our egos to the side. We got to stop worrying if somebody is going to look at us a certain kind of way because we need help. Everybody needs help sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
The key is knowing what source to seek that help from. Is the key is knowing who do I lean on, who do I seek guidance and direction from when I'm going through. Who is that number one source that I should be targeting first? And it's Him. It's Him. He gives us the answers, and He will surround you with people who will be supportive, who will be encouraging to you, who will pour into you. You don't have to worry about none of that stuff. You just got to trust Him. And so everything that you just said about your process in dealing with challenging times speaks to that. And so I'm grateful that you're sharing that because, quite frankly, there's some people who just don't know how to deal with tough and difficult times. They don't know kind of what those first steps look like. And that's kind of leads into the next thing I wanted to capture with you about. Um, you know, if you had, here you are, you're knocking on, 80, and God is good, to have blessed you with the life that you've had. But if you could sit across the table right now, if you could sit across from younger Nezzie who's been through domestic violence, Nezzie who's gone through cancer and COVID and major car crashes and lost money, and just been in some tight, traumatic situations. If you could pour into her, if you could offer her some words of wisdom, some words of encouragement, I'm curious to know what would you say to younger Nezzie, as well as those who are tuning in who might be going through some of the things that you've talked about this evening, but they're not knowing those first steps to take. They're looking for that ray of hope, that ray of encouragement. What would you say to them? What would you say to younger Nezzie?
I would say to younger Nezzie that don't worry about what people say against you or tease you. I was bullied a lot, and so that's probably why I kind of had a lot of animals to talk to. But we can't worry about what people think about us. People are going to think all kind of things. Just continue to be kind to everybody. And I've always been kind to people. But sometimes people, when you're too kind, they take your kindness for weakness. And that's not so. So I wished I was a little bit stronger in faith, younger, um, but I don't regret everything that I've gone through. Even last year when they took away my money because I was on Social Security. And I think they wrote me off because of my age and the fact that I had cancer at a late age and I had to go to nursing homes. So they just figured I was going to stay there. But I kind of don't regret some of the things I went through, even though they were painful, because they made me who I am today. Even what happened to me in 2025, I didn't give up. I said, I don't want anything to do with Social Security or anything like that. I want to be independent. And I'm working on becoming independent, you know, because I have too many things I want to do. I want to go to work. I want to teach, and I want to do speaking engagements wherever I get the opportunity to do. So I want to spend the rest of my life encouraging women that they do not have to live through some of the mess that they are living in. And I want to share with them God's plan for marriage. There's so many marriages breaking up. There's so many things that we're doing that's outside of the will of God. And it makes a difference when we follow Him than follow the world. Don't follow the world. We are put in this, we were cast down here with the devil and the falling angels. And God gave us volition, the willingness to choose good or evil. And He gave us a choice. But the best choice that any human being can make is to follow Him, not the worldly things. And so the thing is, when we have burdens and issues and stuff like that, oh, even us Christians will say, well, we'll just take our burdens to the Lord and leave them there. Yeah, you do that, but then you turn around and pick them back up and you replay the video.
Hmm.
And so you're wasting your time. You're wasting your precious hours replaying something negative that happened in the past. You're taking up the time of present, and that time should be spent on doing steps to make forward for your future, because God gave us all a vision. God gave us all something to do, a mission in life. Find out what that mission is, and every day you should work on it. And that's what I'm working on. I don't care about how old I am. I don't care that my legs only bend 20%. I still walk, maybe like a stick, but I still walk. It's nothing wrong with my hands, nothing wrong with my mind, and I feel like I'm going to build something significant that will help generations to come. And so I'm putting all the things that I've learned in life, all the traveling and things that I have done. I'm sharing it with young people. I even have certificates already drawn up for Kenya. I'm having my book done up in not only Swahili but Hebrew. And so, yeah, I'm busy, and I love it. I don't even watch TV. Are you kidding me? No, I don't want to watch people have fun. I want to have fun myself. And I do
Love
have
that.
I do have ridiculous fun. I got videos dancing in grocery stores with police officers. Okay, I love to have fun, nice, clean fun. I love it. I love people, and I love people of all races. I do. Yes.
That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. I love uh, I was envisioning the conversation with you and younger Nezzie, and of course our listeners. And I think what you just said is some truly good nuggets of wisdom. Again, not focusing in on the past, no matter the past.
Hmm.
We learn from the past,
Oh yeah.
but we don't stay stuck in things that didn't go the way that you want them to go, or
Right.
those challenges. We don't let those things cement us in one place. We understand, based upon what you said, we understand that, hey, there's a bigger future out there. There's things that I have been destined to create. Let me create those things. Let me utilize the gifts that God has put in me to be a creative source, to pour into this world, to be a blessing to this world, to be a light in this world, to take those dark moments and transform them into something beautiful. That's what you're doing, and that's what again makes your story so powerful and so enjoyable to hear. So again, I appreciate you sharing that. This is great stuff. Great stuff. So so Nezzie, this has been a phenomenal time with you this evening. Again, your testimony has been very powerful, very inspiring, very encouraging. And as promised, first by your daughter, and then of course getting a chance to speak with you face to face, and have you with us this evening. You have truly been a blessing to my listeners, truly been a blessing to me, and words cannot adequately express how thankful that I am that you chose to be a guest on our platform this evening, because we need these type of stories. We need to hear
Yes.
these words of encouragement, because there's people just going through all kind of stuff, people hurting inside, people not knowing how to navigate these life storms, and they're going to happen. But if we just have the right direction, just have the right focus, the right outlook, it can play out so much better than a lot of us are experiencing right now, because again, We can't fall victim to what you just said, replaying that same video over and over again, replaying that same story over and over again. It's like you went through it, you have your moment, you draw from it what you need to draw
Hmm.
from it, and you create something beautiful out of it. That's not the end of your story. That's not the end of the line, and it's not a certain marker in life where you're too old, where it's too late for you. No, it's not. Live in the now, create for tomorrow. Utilize every breath in your body that God has given you, and when that time is up, and you have that opportunity to be before Him face to face, He'll be able to say to you, "Job well done." That
Yes.
you used everything that I gave you in spite of all the things that happened in between, but you never gave up. You continued to press forward and you continued to rely upon me, knowing that I love you unconditionally and want nothing but the best for you. So everything that you spoke to tonight speaks to that very thing, which is why we always want to make sure that we don't sugarcoat in any way on this podcast about the importance of God, especially when it comes to dealing with challenging and difficult times. So again, I thank you for that. But before I let you go, Nezzie, as is customary here on the Blessings in the Streets podcast, I do want to take the opportunity to celebrate you, to love on you, to lift you up. So if you got anything that's going on now or coming up down the road, please tell us all about it, how people can connect, support, continue to follow you, be a part of these experiences with you, and if nothing more, just to be able to keep you lifted in prayer. So what do people need to be looking forward to coming out of Nezzie and you doing the works that God is having you to do? What we got to be looking forward to?
Yes, my book called Fearless and its companion, which is a workbook, and it's going to be in several languages. First English, and then Swahili, and then Hebrew. I'm also planning a trip to Nairobi, Kenya, and I also have a um, a courseware for to teach and train people who want to do the workshops and stuff like that. Oh, and I have, something, I do not like rap music, but for whatever reason, I get up in the middle of the night with the words to entertainment or entrapment. And I'm going to send you a copy after we get off of it, but I haven't had it, um, what you call, it's not certified. What do you call it? I haven't had it published yet.
Copyrighted or published yet?
Copyright. There you go. I haven't
Hmm.
had a copyright, and it just came over me. So somehow, Grandma was writing rap music. I got one for my four C's. I got one for bullies, not only for kids, but even for elementary kids, to where they could do the little song with the little hand movements and stuff like that. I just got off on the whole kid thing. I'm like, I wonder what am I doing? Trying to rap at 80, but it just came to me, and so my son, who is a producer, he wrote like 500 songs last year. Has a radio station, and once I get the copyright and everything, he'll start playing it. But I'm going to send you entertainment or entrapment. I was just thinking about children, how violent they see cartoons, and then the video games they play, and they're always cutting somebody's head off and stabbing folks. I'm like, and then even our ladies, please, the soap operas and all the drama and everything. That's why the young people don't think too much about murder and killing and shooting and stuff like that. It's part of the culture, and they're getting so used to this. So I wrote a song about it, and I'll send it to you after this program.
Awesome, awesome. So, what's the best way if people want to kind of keep in touch with you? Keep on point of what you got
Email,
going on. What's the best way to
email.
do that? Please share that
Email.
with us.
Yes, it's NIFLA Workshops. NIFLA, NIFLA. Work, WORK, shops, SHOPS, at gmail.com. And NIFLA is Hebrew. I'm Hebrew. And NIFLA is Hebrew for wonderful. So it's wonderful workshops. I was making and designing lawn furniture, just beautiful stuff. And so NIFLA workshops at gmail.com.
Awesome, awesome.
And
Well,
once I
there,
get my website up, it'll be the Creator's Dream Project. But I'm working on it. That's why I'm working on my website and all that. So yeah, I'll keep you posted.
great, great.
Uh, and I'll
Well,
let you
well,
know when the book comes out. You'll get a copy.
That'll be awesome. That might be that might be just your setup to get back on this show. We can delve into more of that book and everything. So, know that you do have an open invite to come back. This has been a phenomenal time, and again, I thank you for
Um,
blessing us with
yeah.
your presence this evening. And for my listeners, if you've enjoyed our broadcast tonight, even in spite of our minor technical difficulties, please do subscribe. Please share. Please, please like, please comment, because this is what the Blessings in the Streets podcast is all about. We want to inspire, we want to encourage, we want to uplift, taking stories of our journeys, of our testimonies that we've gone through, and blessing you with those, and doing it in a very raw, transparent, open way, because we don't sit here and pretend like we got it all figured out, that we got it all together, that we've never had any problems or anything like that. Everybody goes through something sometimes, some at higher levels than others, but nevertheless, we all have our storms that we go through. But what's so important to understand is that you're not going through those life storms by accident. They are divinely designed for a reason, for you to glean something out of it, as well as be able to take that and be a blessing to other people. And so, the key component in it all, the big C of it all, is Christ Himself. And if you don't have a relationship with Christ, today is a mighty fine day to make that decision. Not telling you something that we heard, telling you something that we know from firsthand experience. And so we welcome you, we encourage you, we implore you that you need to have that relationship with Him. And I promise you, it'll be the best decision that you ever make in life. He loves unconditionally. He wants nothing but the best for you. He's always going to be there with you, no matter what, no matter how hard it gets, or no matter how wonderful it gets, because sometimes, even when times are great, you still need Him, not only to be reminded of who's responsible for it happening, but to make sure you don't let the good get away from you because of making silly mistakes, or being around the wrong people, or around wrong circumstances. So, nevertheless, in all situations and at all times, you want Him in your life. So, I definitely encourage you to make that happen. So, with that said, remember, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and I thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you keep fighting that good fight like Nezzie has been doing. Keep fighting that good fight. Keep leaning into God, understanding that He's there for you, wants nothing but the best for you. He is your ultimate protector, your ultimate way maker. Never give up on that. Never let that go. Grab all of it that you can, and just know that He wants not only for the best for you, to pour blessings into you, but to create you in such a way where you can be a mighty and powerful blessing for other people. So with that said, you have a great rest of the evening. Take care of yourselves, and thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.